New York Mets are officially in the win column in 2025. They get a nice, tight 3-1 victory over the Houston Astros on Friday night. Hopefully, you were able to watch it on Apple TV. I know I really enjoyed it. It was just a really fun and, like I said, tight ball game that kept me on my toes the entire time. But glad to see the Mets come away with a victory. They're not going to begin the season 0-5 like they did in 2024. Great win for the Mets last night. So let's recap that. We're going to talk about the rubber game today. We're going to go through the previews of the pitching matchups and what to expect from the two lineups this evening. But first, let's talk about last night's victory. So, like I said, an all-around 3-1 tight victory. Jesse Winker getting things going. Actually, it was Mark Vientos with an RBI double in the second to open the scoring. Jesse Winker would follow him with an RBI single of his own to put the Mets up 2-0. And then something that we've all been waiting for, it has happened. Juan Soto taking this one deep off Hunter Brown off of the awning of the second deck in right field. Man, I could just watch that all day. Beautiful. Oh, my gosh. Just like Wayne Randazzo said, the first of many in the next 15 years. Yes, that's right, the generational talent, Juan Soto. I caught a lot of flack for calling him that the other day. He's a generational talent. He's a superstar player. We're going to be seeing a lot of that. The Mets would end up giving up just one run, and that came off Tyler McGill, who had a fantastic outing last night. McGill taking the bump and just really put it together for the team. I mean, I got to tell you, that was one of the better outings I've seen from McGill in a long time. If I can finally get these highlights to play for you, there you go. Now we got it. I'm so bad at trying to do all this, guys. I'm working on it. I'm trying to get better. But as you can see, finally there, Tyler McGill, who had a great outing. He had 5+ innings on the afternoon, 3 hits, 1 walk, and he struck out 6. He got the hook in the 5th inning, and he probably would have went longer if not for the drop third strike for Luis Torrens. He then gave up a basically seeing eye single to Jose Altuve, where if Francisco Lindor wasn't in double play position, he's probably right there to field that and get at least 1 out, if not turn 2. So he ended up getting the hook, and that would bring on Reed Garrett, and the bullpen just continues to be fantastic for this team. Garrett getting fly out to left field. He ended up walking Yordan Alvarez, which loaded the bases in the 6th, but then got a strikeout of Christian Walker and was able to get a fly out to end the threat there and preserve a 3-1 lead for the Mets. But going back to McGill just for a minute, he was great. 77 pitches, just 49 of them were strikes. So got to love that. It's always been the same thing with McGill. If he attacks the strike zone, he's got the stuff. That fastball was just ramped up there to 98 sometimes last night. Really good bite on his breaking pitches. Got a couple swings and misses to make Astros hitters look foolish on them. Really happy with what we saw out of Tyler McGill. We're going to need that from him throughout this season. And if he wants to remain in this rotation when the rest of it gets healthy, he's going to have to prove himself here over the coming months. So really solid start for Tyler McGill out of the gate. Going back to the bullpen now. So after Reed Garrett did his job in the 6th inning, it was A.J. Minter making his debut. And I was getting a little nervous there for a second. I've seen A.J. Minter pitch so well against the Mets in an Atlanta Braves uniform. He started his first batter 2-0, and then he eventually walked him. But from there, cleaned things up, ended up getting a strikeout to end the inning. He then handed the ball over to Ryan Stanek, who similarly had a walk, but 1, 2, 3, 4 for that 8th inning, and that led to Edwin Diaz coming on to shut the door for the Mets, and he did just that. A 1, 2, 3 innings for Edwin Diaz, put it in the books. First victory of 2025 for the Mets. One of the best outings I've seen from Edwin Diaz. I mean, just had great control of that fastball. You know right away if you're getting good Edwin or bad Edwin based off his first pitch, and that first pitch was a dart right in the middle, started his first batter 0-2, would eventually strike him out on a nasty slider. Really, the bullpen's just been fantastic so far this year. Obviously, it's small sample size, only 2 games. Clay Holmes only went 4 1/3. McGill went 5+. So they've had to carry the load a little bit early on. But so far in 6 1/3 innings, just 2 hits, one of them coming against Brazoban on Thursday, the other coming against Danny Young on Thursday. They've struck out 7 batters, and most importantly, they've not given up a run so far in that 6 1/3. It's been fantastic. The one little nitpick you could make about this Mets bullpen so far, and again, it's a nitpick though, 4 walks, and it's not terrible for 6 1/3, but walks were an issue for this team going back to last year. They led the league in walks issued. So hoping that they were going to fix that. They got to get that under control. Again, 4 walks and 6 1/3, not the worst thing in the world, but they will eventually come back to bite you. So if there's one little thing that I would nitpick about this bullpen, it's that they need to limit the free passes. So hopefully they're on their way to doing that. So that leads us into the rubber game this evening against the Astros. The Mets looking to get their first series victory of the year. The pitching matchup, Griffin Canning going up against Spencer Arrighetti, one of the former top prospects in all of baseball. So let's start out with the Astros lineup. If I can get it up here, let's see. And there we go. This thing is not easy to operate. Okay, look, I'm trying here. Anyway, starting lineup for the Astros: Jose Altuve, Isaac Paredes, Yordan Alvarez, Christian Walker, Jeremy Pena, Victor Caratini, Zach DeCenso, Mauricio Dubon, and Chas McCormick. So a different bottom third of the lineup for the Astros than what we've seen in the first 2 games. As for Canning, his career numbers against them, not very good. A 6.69 ERA and 9 career starts against Houston. 3 of those came last year for Canning. In May, he threw 5 innings. He gave up 2 earned runs on 5 hits, 3 walks, and he took the loss in that one. Just 2 weeks later in June, he went 6 1/3, giving up 3 runs on 7 hits and 2 walks. He also took the loss in that one. And then in September, his penultimate start of the season, lasted just 4 1/3, gave up 4 runs on 6 hits and 3 walks. And if you're sensing a trend, yes, he took the loss in that game as well. But he also was on the Angels, and they're absolutely pitiful. So hopefully the Mets will be able to get him a victory against the Astros finally. Really, they weren't terrible starts, at least those first 2, 5 innings pitched, 2 earned runs, 5 hits, 3 walks, not bad. And then in June, again, 2 weeks later, 6 1/3 innings, 3 runs. I mean, that's exactly what we're hoping to get out of Griffin Canning, to be that 4th or 5th starter in this rotation, at least for the time being, till everybody gets healthy. If we get something like that from him today and moving forward until Sean Manaea is back, that's going to be exactly what we're seeking from him. Totally adequate. So hopefully he'll be able to do that. Let's take a look at the numbers for the Astros lineup against Canning for their career. Jose Altuve is 3 for 13, a home run and 2 walks against him. Isaac Paredes is 1 for 5, including a double. Yordan Alvarez absolutely owns Canning. 7 for 13, a 538 average, 2 homers and 3 RBIs and 3 walks. That's an OPS over 1,700. So best advised not to be facing Yordan Alvarez with men on base today if you're Griffin Canning. Same for Christian Walker. He's 4 for 8. He's also got 2 bombs and 5 RBIs against him. Jeremy Pena just 2 for 12. Victor Caratini getting the start behind the plate for the Astros today. He's 0 for 4 with a walk. Zach DeCenso does not have any career plate appearances. Mauricio Dubon is 2 for 5, including a walk, and Chas McCormick hitless and 4 at-bats, but a walk. So really the key for Canning today, you got to limit the long ball, especially against that 3 and 4 in the order, Yordan Alvarez and Christian Walker, that just own him. 4 combined home runs for those 2 against Canning in their careers. Like I said, a 1,700 OPS for Yordan Alvarez against Canning. You got to avoid putting men on base in front of big Yordan. And that comes with limiting the walks, which is the same for all pitchers, no doubt about it. But 8 walks over 15 2/3 innings in his 3 starts against the Astros for Canning. It's going to be particularly important today, especially with that 3-4 punch of Yordan and Christian Walker right behind him. So hopefully we get to see a good debut from Canning today. Meanwhile, on the mound for the Astros is Spencer Arrighetti. Arrighetti, 6th-round pick of the Astros in 2021. He entered 2024 as their top pitching prospect, and of course that made him MLB's number 3 overall prospect, according to Baseball America. Last year, 4.51 ERA in 28 starts, and opponents hitting 253 against him. He is susceptible to the long ball, though. He gave up 21 home runs last year in those 28 starts, but does have electric stuff. Struck out 167 batters in 142 innings. He's a little bit tougher on lefties than he is on righties. So I'm actually a little surprised to see this Mets lineup here today as I bring it up here on the stage for you. It's Francisco Lindor, Juan Soto, Pete Alonso, Brandon Nimmo, Mark Vientos. The top five don't change. But Jesse Winker getting the start this afternoon, followed by Brett Beatty, which we knew Beatty was going to be starting against right-handers for the most part during this stretch. So a little surprised to see Winker getting the start here today as opposed to Marte. I know the whole lefty versus righty DH platoon and that Winker would get most starts against righties and Marte against lefties, but you're going to now have back-to-back lefties toward the bottom of that lineup. I guess Mendoza's just thinking, hey, I can pinch hit Luis Angel Acuna for Beatty late in the game, or he could go with Tyrone Taylor if he so chooses, depending on the matchups. And then finally, Luis Torrens and Jose Siri makes his debut for the Mets, getting his first start in the orange and blue. He's actually not appeared in these first two games yet, so we'll see him getting his first at-bats and first chances in center field. So let's take a look at the Mets' career numbers against Arrighetti. Oh, wait, there really are none. Arrighetti only debuted last year, and only two batters in the Mets lineup have ever faced him. One of them is Siri, who's 0 for 3 with 2 strikeouts against the Astros' former top prospect. And the other, you guessed it, someone that spent their season in the American League last year, and that's Juan Soto, who is 2 for 3 with a home run and 3 RBIs against him. So hopefully Soto can repeat that and hit another big bomb today. Keys for the Mets lineup, if you ask me, fastball hunting. This guy does not have a tremendous fastball. The velocity's there, but it gets hit. Last year, it was hit to the tune of a 302 batting average and a 516 slugging percentage from opponents against Arrighetti. He's worked to change that this offseason. He's been very vocal about it. All the reports from everyone out of spring training have said that's been something he's been trying to adjust in his repertoire. We'll see how good that comes out. His spring training numbers were kind of up and down. So hopefully the Mets will be aggressive. They'll look for that fastball, try to find pitches that they can do damage on, and put some runs up on the board early while Griffin Canning gets settled in. So be sure to tune in tomorrow. We're going to have a recap of this opening season series and hopefully the Mets getting their first series victory of the season. Talk with you guys later. Let's go Mets.